Doctor in despair when equipment fails. Then the janitor's son fixes it. Dr. David Johnson held his head in his hands as he stared at the heart monitor that had just gone completely dark. The black screen reflected his own desperate face, and the deadly silence where there should have been the steady sound of a heartbeat made his stomach churn. On the bed in front of him, Mrs. Margaret Thompson, 72 years old, remained unconscious, entirely dependent on that equipment to monitor her vital signs after emergency surgery. "Not now," David muttered, clenching his fists. The surgery had been a success, but the patient needed constant monitoring in the critical hours ahead. Without the equipment working, any change in her condition could go unnoticed. David rushed to the main panel and began pressing every possible button. Nothing happened. The equipment, which had cost the hospital a fortune and was considered the most advanced in the region, had simply stopped working at the worst possible moment. "Dr. David, what happened?" asked Nurse Jennifer, hurrying into the ICU after hearing the silence from the monitors. "The equipment just stopped. Try turning on the backup." Jennifer ran to the cabinet where the spare equipment was stored, but when she tried to connect the backup monitor, she found it was also malfunctioning. The screen flickered constantly and emitted an annoying sound. "Doctor, this one's broken too. It looks like both devices have the same issue." David felt his blood run cold. Without proper monitoring, Mrs. Margaret was in serious danger. She was the wife of the city's mayor, William Thompson, and all the political pressure was on his shoulders. More than that, David had known the family for years and had promised her husband he would do everything to save her. "Call the technician immediately," David ordered, trying to stay calm. "I already tried, Doctor. He's in another city handling an emergency and won't be back until tomorrow morning." Desperation gripped David. He had graduated 15 years ago and had never faced such a dire situation. His reputation, the patient's life, and the trust the family had placed in him were all at stake. It was in that moment of total panic that David heard a young voice behind him. "Doctor, can I take a look?" David turned and saw a boy of about 13, wearing a grey hoodie standing at the ICU door. He was thin, with curly hair and a curious expression. David recognized him immediately. "Tyler, Mrs. Grace's son, what are you doing here?" "This is the ICU. You can't be in here." Tyler Wilson was the son of Grace, the hospital's most dedicated janitor. The boy often accompanied his mother to work during school breaks, but always stayed in the common areas. "I know how to fix this stuff, Doctor. My mum let me come today because she had no one to watch me. I saw you panicking and—" "Tyler, this isn't a joke. It's very expensive, complicated equipment," David interrupted, but his voice trembled with desperation. "I know, Doctor, but I've fixed our microwave 3 times, the neighbor's TV, and even the school computer. My mom always says I have a knack for electronics." David looked at the boy, then at Mrs. Margaret on the bed, and back at the lifeless equipment. The situation was desperate. What harm could there be in letting the kid take a look? After all, the machine was already broken. "Fine, but don't touch anything yet, just look." Tyler approached the equipment with the confidence of someone who truly knew what he was doing. His eyes examined every wire, every connection, every button. After a few minutes of careful observation, he pointed to a tangle of colored cables at the back of the monitor. "Doctor, see this red wire here? It's a bit loose. And this blue one too. It looks like someone messed with it and didn't connect it properly." David moved closer and indeed saw that some cables had loose connections. How had he not noticed this before? "But how do you know that's the issue?" asked David, impressed by the boy's observation. "It's just like the computer at school. When the wires aren't connected right, it won't turn on or it acts up. Can I try fixing them?" David hesitated. On one hand, it was completely against protocol to let a child touch medical equipment. On the other, he didn't have many options. The technician wouldn't be back until the next day, and Mrs. Margaret needed immediate monitoring. "All right, but be very careful. If anything goes wrong—" "Don't worry, Doctor, I'll be careful." Tyler got to work with surprising precision for his age. His small but nimble hands carefully reconnected each cable, making sure they were snug. David watched every move, ready to step in if needed. "All done, Doctor. Try turning it on now." David pressed the button, and to his surprise and relief, the equipment sprang back to life. The screen lit up, the buttons glowed, and moments later, Mrs. Margaret's vital signs appeared. The steady heartbeat echoed through the room, music to David's ears. "Unbelievable," David whispered, staring at the numbers on the screen. "How did you do that?" "My dad used to tinker with electronics before he left," Tyler replied, lowering his gaze slightly. "He taught me a few things, and I like taking stuff apart and putting it back together to see how it works." David noticed the sadness in the boy's voice when he mentioned his father, but right now, he was too focused on the relief of having the equipment working again. "Tyler, you saved the day. I don't know how to thank you." "No need to thank me, Doctor. I just did what anyone would do." But David knew not just anyone would have the sharp eye and skill Tyler had shown. The boy had a remarkable natural talent. Just then, Grace Wilson walked into the ICU looking for her son. She was a thin, 45-year-old woman with her hair tied in a simple bun, wearing the blue cleaning staff uniform. Her face showed concern when she saw Tyler in the ICU. "Tyler, what are you doing here?" "Dr. David, I'm so sorry. I'll take him out right away." "It's all right, Mrs. Grace. Your son just helped me solve a very serious problem," David explained, still looking at Tyler with admiration. "What do you mean, Doctor? Did Tyler do something wrong?" "Quite the opposite. He fixed a piece of equipment that had stopped working. Without his help, I wouldn't have known what to do." Grace looked at her son with a mix of pride and worry. She knew about Tyler's knack for electronics, but never imagined it could be useful in a hospital. "Doctor, I hope he didn't get in the way. This boy's so curious. Sometimes he sticks his nose where it doesn't belong." "Mrs. Grace, on the contrary, your son may have saved a life today." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now back to the story. However, David's joy was short-lived. About an hour later, after Tyler had returned to the waiting area and Grace had gone back to work, the equipment started acting up again. This time it didn't shut down completely, but the readings were inconsistent. David noticed the numbers on the screen didn't match the patient's apparent condition. Mrs. Margaret seemed stable, but the monitor showed dangerous arrhythmias that made no sense given her clinical state. "Nurse Jennifer, check the vitals manually," David requested, distrusting the equipment's readings. Jennifer checked Mrs. Margaret's pulse, blood pressure, and breathing manually. The results were completely different from those appearing on the monitor. "Doctor, the manual readings are normal. The equipment is giving false readings." David felt desperation creeping back in. A malfunctioning device was worse than a broken one because it could lead to medical decisions based on incorrect information. "Call Tyler again," David requested. A few minutes later, Tyler returned to the ICU, accompanied by his mother, who was visibly nervous about the situation. "Tyler, the equipment is acting up again. It's running now but giving wrong readings." The boy approached the machine once more and watched the screen for a few minutes. Then he checked the connections he had fixed earlier. "Doctor, it looks like there's interference. See how the numbers keep flickering? That happens when something disrupts the signal." "Interference? From where?" Tyler glanced around the ICU, examining other devices, electrical wires, and appliances that might be causing the issue. "It could be the air conditioner, Doctor. Sometimes old electrical equipment interferes with newer devices. At school, the projector acts up when they turn on the old fan in the next room." David had never considered that. The ICU's air conditioner was indeed old, installed over 10 years ago. Could that really be the problem? "Let's try turning off the air conditioner temporarily to see if it helps." David switched it off, and within minutes, the equipment's readings stabilized. The numbers now matched Mrs. Margaret's manual vital signs. "That's incredible, Tyler. How did you think of that?" "My uncle works in refrigeration, Doctor. He always says old appliances can interfere with new ones, especially when they're on the same electrical circuit." David was impressed by the boy's practical knowledge. Tyler not only had a knack for electronics, but also understood electromagnetic interference concepts that many professionals didn't. "But now, we'll be without air conditioning in the ICU," Nurse Jennifer pointed out. "It's a temporary fix," David said. "We'll open the windows and use fans while we figure out a permanent solution." Over the next few hours, David was able to monitor Mrs. Margaret properly. Her vitals remained stable, and she was responding well to post-operative treatment. Still, David knew he needed a permanent fix for the equipment issue. Later that evening, as Grace was finishing her shift, David approached her to talk about Tyler. "Mrs. Grace, may I speak with you about your son?" "Of course, doctor. Did he do something wrong?" "No, quite the opposite. I'm amazed by his skills. Where did he learn so much about electronics?" Grace sighed and sat in a chair in the hospital hallway. Her face showed exhaustion after a full day's work. "Doctor, Tyler's father was an electronics technician. He fixed TVs, radios, things like that. Since he was little, Tyler would watch him work. Gradually, he picked it up." "And where is his father now?" Grace's expression visibly darkened. "He left us 2 years ago, doctor. One day he just walked out and never came back. Said he was going to find work in New York and would send money, but we never heard from him again." David heard the pain in Grace's voice. Being a single mother and supporting a child on a cleaner's salary couldn't be easy. "Does Tyler miss his father?" "Very much, doctor. He was very close to him. I think tinkering with electronics is his way of feeling connected to his father's memory. I don't understand any of these things, but I let him tinker because I see he enjoys it and has a knack for it. Mrs. Grace, your son has exceptional talent. Today he solved problems that trained technicians would take much longer to identify." "Thank you for saying that, doctor, but I worry about his future. How will I pay for college? I don't even know how I'll manage to keep him in high school." David grew thoughtful. Tyler was clearly a child with extraordinary potential, but he had been born into a family without the means to invest in his education. It was an unfair situation, but unfortunately common. "Mrs. Grace, how about if Tyler comes to the hospital a few times a week to help me with small technical issues? Of course, always supervised and only with simple tasks. In return, I could help you with his education costs." Grace's eyes filled with tears. "Doctor, would you really do that? Tyler helped me a lot today. This is my way of giving back. Besides, I think he could learn a great deal by observing how a hospital operates." "But doctor, what if he gets in the way? What if he makes a mistake?" "Mrs. Grace, I'll supervise everything personally. Tyler will only handle simple equipment and always with my permission." Grace covered her face, wiping away the tears that streamed down. It was more than she had ever dreamed of for her son's future. "Dr. David, thank you so much. God bless you." Tyler, who had overheard part of the conversation from the hallway, approached with eyes shining with happiness. "Really, doctor? I can come here and help?" "Yes, Tyler, but with a few conditions. First, your studies always come first. Second, you can only touch equipment with my permission. Third, you must always follow the hospital's rules." "I promise, doctor. I'll study hard and help as much as I can." David smiled at the boy's enthusiasm. It had been a long time since he had felt so good about doing something for someone. In the following days, Tyler began visiting the hospital 3 times a week after school. David set aside a small room where the boy could study and occasionally assist with minor technical issues. In the first month, Tyler helped David solve simple problems like loose connections, basic equipment settings, and identifying interference. His keen observation and logical reasoning impressed all the hospital staff. Mrs. Margaret made a full recovery from her surgery and was discharged after a week. On the day of her release, she insisted on meeting the boy who had helped save her life. "So you're the young technician my husband couldn't stop talking about," Mrs. Margaret said, smiling at Tyler. "I only helped a little, Mom," Tyler replied shyly. "A little? My husband told me you saved my life. How can I thank you?" "No need to thank me, Mom. I'm just glad you're well." Mayor William Thompson, who was accompanying his wife, also wanted to meet Tyler. "Young man, I hear you have a special talent with electronics. Is that true?" "I like tinkering with these things, Mr. Mayor. I learned a bit from my father." "How old are you?" 13, sir." 13 and already fixing medical equipment? Impressive. If you ever need anything, you can count on me." Tyler was moved by the recognition, but in the following days, he realized not everyone at the hospital viewed his presence favorably. Dr. Robert Miller, the head of hospital maintenance, had learned about the situation and was far from pleased. He was a man in his 50s with graying hair, always serious, and disliked anyone interfering in his domain. "Dr. David, I need to speak with you about this boy who's been tampering with the equipment," Dr. Robert said, stepping into David's office with a displeased expression. "What about Tyler? He only helps me with simple issues." "Dr. David, with all due respect, but this is irregular. Medical equipment should only be handled by certified technicians. If something goes wrong, the responsibility falls on us." "Dr. Robert, Tyler only handles basic things and always under my supervision. He has an impressive natural talent." "Natural talent doesn't replace technical training, Dr. David. What if he damages expensive equipment? What if he puts a patient's life at risk?" David realized Dr. Robert had a legitimate concern, but also noticed a hint of jealousy in his voice. Maybe the head of maintenance felt threatened by Tyler's talent. "Dr. Robert, I understand your concern. Let's set clearer rules. Tyler will only handle equipment with your authorization as well." "I'd prefer he didn't touch anything at all, Dr. David. We have trained technicians for that. But your technicians weren't available when I needed them. Tyler saved the situation." The tension between the two doctors was visible. Dr. Robert left the room upset, and David knew he'd have trouble ahead. In the following days, Dr. Robert began making things difficult for Tyler. Whenever the boy tried to help with an issue, Dr. Robert would show up and send him away, saying it was a job for professionals. Tyler grew discouraged. He genuinely wanted to help, but felt rejected. "Dr. David, I think Dr. Robert doesn't like me," Tyler said sadly. "It's not that he dislikes you, Tyler. He's worried about regulations and responsibilities. It's normal. But I just want to help. I don't understand why he gets mad at me." David realized he needed to find a way around Dr. Robert's resistance. He didn't want to discourage Tyler, but also didn't want more conflict in the hospital. The situation worsened when Nurse Jennifer mentioned Tyler to other staff. Some supported the boy, but others began questioning whether it was appropriate for a child to handle medical equipment. "I think it's disrespectful," Nurse Melissa commented during a break. "We studied for years to work here, and now a 13-year-old boy solves problems trained technicians can't." "But Melissa, the boy really has talent," Jennifer defended. "You saw how he identified the monitor issue. Talent or not, a child shouldn't touch medical equipment. What if something goes wrong? Who'll be responsible?" The criticism reached Grace, who grew worried. She didn't want her son causing trouble for Dr. David or the hospital. "Dr. David, maybe it's best if Tyler doesn't come anymore," Grace said, finding David at the end of the day. "Why, Mrs. Grace? Did something happen?" "I've been hearing comments that people don't like his presence. I don't want to cause problems for you." David was upset by the criticism. Tyler was only trying to help and had shown exceptional skill. "Mrs. Grace, don't worry about the comments. Tyler is doing excellent work." "But doctor, what if something really goes wrong? What if Tyler makes a mistake and harms someone?" David saw insecurity taking hold of Grace. The negative comments were influencing her, making her doubt her own son. "Mrs. Grace, I have complete confidence in Tyler. He's careful and smart. But doctor, maybe it's better if he just focuses on his studies. I don't want him getting the wrong idea, thinking he can work with things he doesn't fully understand." It was exactly what David feared. The criticism was undermining Grace's faith in her son's potential. That night, David went home thinking about how to resolve the situation. Tyler had an exceptional talent and deserved a chance, but the resistance at the hospital was growing. The next day, an incident completely changed the course of events. Dr. Robert was trying to fix an X-ray machine that had stopped working. It was a vital piece of equipment for the hospital, used for emergency diagnostics. The specialized technician was once again in another city, and Dr. Robert was attempting to solve the problem alone. After 3 hours of trying, Dr. Robert was frustrated. He had tested every possibility he knew, but the machine still wouldn't work. "Dr. Robert, can I help?" asked Tyler, who had arrived to study and noticed the situation. "Absolutely not," Dr. Robert replied curtly. "This is a very complex and expensive machine." Tyler respected the decision, but continued watching from a distance. He could clearly see what Dr. Robert was doing and spotted a few issues with the approach. 2 more hours passed and Dr. Robert was visibly desperate. The X-ray machine was essential for the hospital's operations, and he couldn't fix the problem. Then, an ambulance arrived with an emergency case. A man had suffered a serious fall and needed an immediate X-ray to check for possible internal fractures. "Dr. Robert, we need the X-ray urgently," said Dr. David, bringing in the patient. "It's not working. I've tried everything I know." "What do you mean it's not working? We don't have another X-ray machine." "I'll try one more time, but I can't promise anything." Tyler watched the situation, feeling terrible that he couldn't help. He had identified the likely problem early on during Dr. Robert's attempts, but couldn't interfere. The emergency patient was in intense pain, and Dr. David urgently needed the X-ray to decide on treatment. Without imaging diagnostics, he couldn't determine if there were fractures requiring immediate surgery. "Dr. Robert, isn't there anything we can do?" insisted Dr. David. "I'm trying, Dr. David, but it's a very complex machine." Tyler couldn't stand by any longer. A person's life was at risk, and he knew how to fix the problem. "Dr. David," Tyler called timidly. "What is it, Tyler?" David replied, impatient with the urgency of the situation. "I know what's wrong with the X-ray. Can I show you?" Dr. Robert exploded in anger. "I already said no. This machine costs a fortune, and you know nothing about X-rays. But Dr. Robert, it's just an electrical connection issue. I can see from here that the main cable isn't plugged in properly." "How could you possibly know that from a distance?" asked David. "Doctor, see that little red light blinking? It only flashes when there's inadequate power supply, and the main cable is slightly bent, not fully inserted." David looked where Tyler was pointing and indeed saw that the main cable was slightly crooked. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. "Dr. Robert, what if we let Tyler check just that connection?" suggested David. "Absolutely not. If he breaks the machine, who's going to pay for it?" Meanwhile, the patient groaned in pain on the stretcher, and Dr. David grew increasingly desperate. Without the X-ray, he couldn't rule out serious injuries that could be fatal if not treated quickly. "Dr. Robert, we have an emergency. If Tyler thinks he can fix it..." "The responsibility is yours, Dr. David. I don't authorize this." David made a difficult decision. The patient's life came first. "Tyler, check just that connection, nothing else." Tyler carefully approached the machine while Dr. Robert watched disapprovingly. The boy checked the main cable and confirmed it was indeed poorly connected. "Dr. David, the cable is loose. I'll plug it in better." Tyler firmly reconnected the main cable into the outlet. Immediately, the red light stopped blinking and turned green. "Now try turning it on, Dr. Robert," said Tyler. Dr. Robert, still reluctant, powered on the equipment. To his surprise and everyone's relief, the X-ray started working perfectly again. "How did you know?" asked Dr. Robert, impressed despite his resistance. "A blinking red light always indicates an electrical power issue, doctor, and the cable was visibly loose." David managed to take the patient's X-ray and discovered he had fractures requiring immediate surgery. The quick diagnosis was crucial in saving the man's life. "Tyler, once again, you've saved a life," said David, moved. Dr. Robert stayed silent, processing what had happened. He had spent 5 hours trying to fix a problem Tyler identified in minutes. It was hard for his pride to admit, but the boy truly had exceptional skills. In the following days, word of what Tyler had done spread throughout the hospital. This time, however, the comments were mostly positive. 2 lives had been saved thanks to the boy's abilities, and it was hard to argue against such concrete results. Nurse Melissa, who had previously criticized Tyler, sought out David to change her mind. "Dr. David, I need to admit I was wrong about the boy. What he did was impressive. Tyler has a natural talent, Melissa. He just needed an opportunity. Maybe we should support him more instead of criticizing him." But not everything was settled. "Dr. Robert, though impressed by Tyler's competence, was still reluctant to accept the boy's presence in his area. "Dr. David, I acknowledge the boy has skill, but we still have the issue of regulations. What if the hospital board finds out a child is handling medical equipment?" David knew Dr. Robert was right. Officially, Tyler wasn't allowed to touch medical equipment, but informally his help was too valuable to waste. "Dr. Robert, what if we create a technical training program? Tyler could observe and learn and only intervene in emergencies." "That would still be irregular, Dr. David. But it would be educational. Tyler is learning a lot by observing how the hospital operates." Dr. Robert thought for a moment. "Maybe if we set very specific rules, and if Tyler commits to formally studying electronics in the future." "Tyler, would you be willing to study electronics in a technical course when you're old enough?" "Absolutely, Doctor. I'd love to learn more about these things." "Then let's try an agreement," said Dr. Robert. "Tyler can keep coming to the hospital, but he can only handle equipment in emergencies and always under my or Dr. David's supervision." Tyler was thrilled with the agreement. He had finally won the approval of the maintenance supervisor. In the following weeks, Tyler settled into a routine at the hospital. He studied in a reserved room, observed the technicians' work, and occasionally helped with simple issues. His reputation grew quickly. Staff from other departments began seeking him out when they had problems with basic electronic equipment. "Tyler, the break room microwave stopped working. Can you take a look?" asked the cook, Mrs. Betty. "Of course, Mrs. Betty, let me check." Tyler inspected the microwave and found it was just a blown fuse. He replaced the fuse and the appliance worked again. "How did you learn to fix these things, boy?" "My dad taught me a few things, Mrs. Betty, and I like understanding how things work." Tyler's popularity grew each day. He had become something of a hospital mascot, always willing to help with simple technical issues. However, this popularity also brought new problems. Tyler began to be sought out so often that he was neglecting his studies. "Tyler, your grades are slipping," said Grace, concerned after a parent-teacher meeting. "Sorry, Mom, it's just that at the hospital there's always someone who needs help. Sweetheart, remember what Dr. David said. School comes first." David also noticed Tyler was getting distracted by his hospital activities. "Tyler, let's make a new deal. You can only come to the hospital 3 times a week, and only after finishing all your schoolwork." "But doctor, what if there's an emergency?" "Emergencies can wait until you're available. Your education is more important." Tyler reluctantly agreed. He loved helping at the hospital, but understood the importance of his studies. In the following weeks, Tyler managed to balance his time better between school and the hospital. His grades improved, and he continued assisting with technical issues. Then, a new challenge arose. The hospital had acquired a state-of-the-art ultrasound machine, far more complex than previous models. The technician responsible for installation was delayed, and the equipment arrived with a manual only in English. "Dr. David, we can't get the new ultrasound set up," said Dr. Robert. "The manual is in English, and the technician won't be here until next week. We need this machine operational. We have several appointments scheduled. I tried following the instructions, but it's too complicated, and my English isn't great." David thought of Tyler. The boy was learning English in school and always showed a knack for understanding technical manuals. "Dr. Robert, what if we ask Tyler to help translate the manual?" "Translate the manual? He's just a kid." "But he's learning English and understands electronics. He might be useful." Dr. Robert was hesitant, but the need to get the machine working won out. "Fine, but only for translating. No touching the equipment." When Tyler arrived at the hospital, David explained the situation. "Tyler, could you help us understand this English manual?" Tyler took the manual and flipped through it. It was indeed complex, full of technical terms he didn't recognize. "Dr. David, it's hard. There are a lot of words I don't know. But do you understand some parts?" "Yes. The parts about connecting cables and turning on the machine are easier." Tyler began translating what he could, while Dr. Robert carefully noted everything down. Even with the partial translation, Dr. Robert made significant progress with the installation. "Tyler, you're being very helpful," said Dr. Robert, his initial resistance giving way to appreciation. Thank you, Dr. Robert. I'm trying my best to get it right. After 2 hours of working together, they successfully installed the machine. The ultrasound worked perfectly, and the scheduled appointments proceeded on time. Tyler, without your help translating, we would have lost a whole week, said David. I'm happy to help, Doctor. It was cool learning about ultrasounds. Dr. Robert, who had been Tyler's biggest critic, began seeing the boy in a new light. You know, Tyler, you really have a special talent. Maybe I was too hard on you before. It's okay, Dr. Robert. I understand you were worried. Would you like to learn more about maintaining medical equipment? Tyler's eyes lit up. I'd love to. How about I teach you some basics? Of course, always following safety rules. David felt moved seeing Dr. Robert offer to mentor Tyler. It was exactly what the boy needed to develop his potential. In the following months, Tyler divided his time between school studies, occasional help with equipment, and formal training with Dr. Robert. His skills and knowledge grew exponentially. The boy who had timidly entered the ICU to help with a heart monitor was becoming a competent young technician, always supervised but increasingly confident. Grace watched her son's growth with pride and gratitude. The work at the hospital was not only providing Tyler with valuable additional education, but also covering extra courses she could never afford. Dr. David, how can I thank you for everything you've done for my son? Mrs. Grace, Tyler earned everything on his own merit. I just gave him an opportunity. But without that opportunity, he would never have discovered this talent. The talent was always there, Mrs. Grace. It just needed to be recognized. Tyler continued to grow and learn. By 15, he was known throughout the hospital as the little technician. Though still officially just a visiting student, his help was valued by everyone. Then came the biggest opportunity of Tyler's life. The hospital decided to create a pilot technical training program for young people in the community. Tyler would be the first official participant. Tyler, we'd like you to join our new technical training program, said David. What do you mean, Doctor? It would be an official program with certification. You could work part-time at the hospital and study part-time. Tyler could hardly believe it. It was far more than he had ever dreamed of. But Doctor, am I old enough for this? We spoke with the board and got special permission. Your history of helping the hospital weighed heavily in the decision. And my mom, did she agree? We already talked to her. Mrs. Grace is very proud. Tyler felt his eyes fill with tears. 2 years ago, he was just the janitor's son who occasionally accompanied his mother to work. Now he was being invited into the hospital's first technical training program. Dr. David, I accept. I'll work hard to deserve this opportunity. I'm sure you will, Tyler. You've already proven your worth many times. The technical training program was a success from the start. Tyler quickly learned more advanced aspects of medical equipment maintenance, always under the supervision of Dr. Robert, who had become his official mentor. During the 2-year program, Tyler faced many challenges. He had to balance theoretical studies with hospital practice, handle increasingly complex equipment, and constantly prove he deserved to be there. There were moments of difficulty. Once, Tyler made a mistake while setting up a machine and nearly caused a serious problem. He was devastated and thought about quitting. Dr. David, I don't think I'm good enough for this, Tyler said, dejected after the mistake. Tyler, everyone makes mistakes. What matters is learning from them. But I could have harmed a patient. But you didn't. We caught the mistake in time and fixed it. That's part of learning. Dr. Robert, who had witnessed the error, also reassured Tyler. Tyler, when I first started working with medical equipment, I made much worse mistakes. What matters is taking responsibility and always being willing to learn. These moments of support were crucial for Tyler's continued growth. He learned that technical competence includes the humility to recognize limitations and seek help when needed. By the end of the 2-year program, Tyler had become a skilled junior technician. He knew all the hospital's equipment and could solve most routine technical problems. Tyler, the time has come to make an important decision about your future, said David. What decision, Doctor? You can continue working here as a technician, or you can go to university to study biomedical engineering. Tyler fell silent for a few minutes, processing the options. "Doctor, I've always dreamed of fully understanding how these machines work. I think I'd like to study engineering." "Excellent choice. We spoke with the state university and secured a full scholarship for you." "A full scholarship? How?" "Your record at the hospital and the recommendation letters we wrote carried a lot of weight. The university was impressed by your hands-on experience." Tyler could hardly believe it. A full scholarship to university was something he never imagined possible for someone from his background. "Dr. David, how can I ever thank you for this?" "Tyler, you earned this yourself. We just opened a few doors." Grace, when she heard about the scholarship, cried with emotion. It was the fulfillment of a dream she thought impossible. "My son, I'm so proud of you. Your father would be so happy if he knew." Tyler was also moved thinking of his father. His passion for electronics had begun by watching his father work. In a way, he was honoring his father's memory. During university, Tyler continued working part-time at the hospital. Now, as an official technician, he could take on greater responsibilities and gain valuable experience. The 4 years of engineering were challenging. Tyler had to adapt to the university environment, learn complex theoretical concepts, and maintain his performance at the hospital. There were moments when he thought about quitting. The workload was heavy, and he sometimes felt inadequate compared to classmates from more privileged backgrounds. "Dr. David, sometimes I feel like I can't keep up with the other students," Tyler confessed during a crisis of confidence. "Tyler, you have something they don't: practical experience. Use that to your advantage." "But they know so much more theory than I do." "And you know far more about real-world applications than they do. In engineering, both matter." Dr. David was right. Gradually, Tyler realized his hands-on experience at the hospital gave him a unique edge. While other students struggled with abstract concepts, he could visualize real-world applications. Professors began to notice Tyler. His questions in class were always practical and relevant, based on real problems he'd faced at the hospital. "Tyler, do you have experience working with medical equipment?" asked the biomechanics professor. "Yes, Professor. I've worked at a hospital for several years." "How interesting. Would you like to share some of your experiences with the class?" Tyler began giving short talks to his classmates, sharing real cases of technical problems he'd solved. His popularity at the university grew quickly. In his 3rd year, Tyler was invited to join a research project on improving medical equipment. It was a unique opportunity to combine theoretical knowledge with practical experience. "Tyler, we'd like you to join our project on optimizing heart monitors," the advisor said. "It would be an honor, Professor. I have a lot of experience with those machines." "That's exactly why we want you on the team. We need someone who understands the practical challenges these devices face." The research project became a milestone in Tyler's career. He identified recurring issues with heart monitors and proposed practical solutions based on his hospital experience. "Tyler, your observations on electromagnetic interference are incredibly valuable," the advisor said. "Professor, it's a problem I see often at the hospital. Old equipment causes interference with the new ones. Do you have data on that?" "I have records of several cases. I can share them with the team." Tyler's research resulted in a scientific paper about optimizing heart monitors in hospital settings. It was his first published academic work, at just 20 years old. "Tyler, congratulations on the publication," said David proudly. "Thank you, Doctor. None of this would have been possible without the experience I gained here. You turned practical experience into scientific knowledge. That's impressive." During his final years at university, Tyler stood out more and more. He won academic awards, attended conferences, and developed innovative projects. Medical equipment companies began approaching him for internships and jobs. His unique combination of theoretical knowledge and hands-on experience was highly valued in the market. "Tyler, we have a job offer from a company in New York," said David. "New York? But I like working here." "It's an excellent opportunity. Great salary and a chance to work with cutting-edge technology." Tyler was conflicted. On one hand, it was an exceptional career opportunity. On the other, it meant leaving the hospital where he'd grown and the people who had supported him. "Dr. David, Can I think about it? Of course, Tyler. It's an important decision. Tyler talked at length with his mother about the decision. Son, you have to think about your future, said Grace. But Mom, this is where it all started. How can I walk away from the people who helped me? No one's walking away from anyone, Tyler. You've grown and now you have bigger opportunities. What about you? You'll be alone. Son, my happiness is seeing you grow. If New York is better for you, you have to go. After much reflection, Tyler made a decision that surprised everyone. Dr. David, I've decided to turn down the New York offer. Turn it down. Why? I want to keep working here. This hospital is my home. But Tyler, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Dr. David, I've learned so much here. Now I want to give back. I'd like to help modernize this hospital's equipment. David was moved by Tyler's decision. The young man who had arrived as the janitor's son was choosing to stay and help the community that had welcomed him. Tyler, are you sure about this? I am, Doctor. I want to use my knowledge to improve this place. Tyler graduated with honors in biomedical engineering. At the ceremony, his entire hospital family was there. David, Dr. Robert, Nurse Jennifer, Grace, and many others who had supported him over the years. Tyler, we're so proud of you, said Dr. Robert during the graduation party. Dr. Robert, thank you for giving me a chance when I was just a curious kid. You earned everything on your own, Tyler. I just stopped resisting the inevitable. Everyone laughed at Dr. Robert's honesty. Over the years, he had become one of Tyler's biggest advocates. After graduation, Tyler was officially hired as the hospital's biomedical engineer. His first project was modernizing the entire cardiac monitoring system, finally solving the interference issues he'd identified years earlier. Dr. David, we've reduced interference problems by 90%, Tyler reported after 6 months of work. How did you manage that? I installed special filters and reorganized the electrical system. Used everything I learned about electromagnetic interference. Tyler, you solved a problem we've had for years. Tyler's work caught the attention of the hospital board. He was promoted to head of the biomedical engineering department, a position created especially for him. At 25, Tyler became the youngest biomedical engineer to hold a leadership role in the region. His story inspired other young people in the community to seek opportunities in the technical field. Tyler, we'd like you to create a technical training program for young people in the community, the board proposed. It would be an honor. I want to give other young people the same opportunity I had. Tyler developed a comprehensive technical training program for low-income youth. The program included scholarships, mentorship, and job opportunities at the hospital. Dr. David, I'd like you to be the honorary director of the program, Tyler said. Me? But you're the expert. Doctor, you were the one who gave me my first opportunity. It's only right that you lead the program that will give others their chance. David accepted the proposal, deeply moved. Seeing Tyler pay forward the opportunities he had received was the greatest reward he could imagine. The technical training program was an immediate success. Dozens of young people from the community enrolled, and many began developing technical skills they never thought they had. Tyler, you're changing lives, Grace said, watching one of the program's classes. Mum, I'm just passing on what I was given. Your father would be so proud if he could see the man you've become. Tyler smiled, thinking of his father. His entire journey had begun with the basic electronics lessons he learned watching his father work. Now he was teaching those same lessons to a new generation. 5 years later, Tyler's program had trained over 100 young technicians. Many secured jobs at local hospitals, others continued their studies, and some even started their own businesses. Dr. David, our program is being replicated by other hospitals, Tyler said proudly. Tyler, you've created something bigger than this hospital. It's impacting the entire region. It's rewarding to know other young people are getting the same chances I had. By 30, Tyler had become a regional leader in biomedical engineering. He gave lectures at universities, attended conferences, and consulted for other hospitals. But nothing made him happier than seeing new young people discover their technical talents through the program he'd created. It was his way of honoring everyone who had helped him along the way. Tyler, do you remember that day when you fixed the heart monitor for the first time? David asked during an evening conversation. How could I forget, Dr. David? That was the day that changed my life. Not just yours, Tyler. You've changed so many lives since then. Dr. David, it all started because you had the courage to let a 13-year-old boy tinker with medical equipment. And it continued because you had the skill to justify that trust. The two fell silent for a moment, reflecting on the extraordinary journey they had shared. The curious boy who once fixed a heart monitor had become a respected engineer and mentor to other young people. Dr. David, thank you for believing in me when no one else did. Tyler, thank you for showing me that talent can come from the most unexpected places. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share, leave us a sincere comment. Do you think Tyler made the right choice by staying at the hospital? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring stories.